Hello friends, today we're going to picture ourselves outside. And while we're picturing ourselves outside, let's just imagine we're going on a field trip. A field trip going camping in the woods. And we're sitting around a campfire. We're going to call this Sit, Crackle, and Pop. Alright, so we're going to imagine ourselves sitting around a campfire. Sitting around a campfire is one of the simplest ways to draw out our deep-seated desire to slow down, reflect, and listen. The crackle and the pop of wood has a mesmerizing effect that keeps us still and thoughtful. It goes with the flicker of the flames perfectly, creating an experience our senses want to return to again and again. A whisper from God is worth 1,000 sermons, isn't it? It happens when we create a space to listen for a moment and hear what our hearts need, to hear to carry us through this battered world. We serve an attentive and personal God who loves every part of us and knows the encouragement that we need and when we need it most. Our busy days can become barriers to being still. They distract us from listening to God, and before we know it, we get to the point of feeling discouraged, not really knowing why. Wisdom tells us to listen and to remind ourselves of the unfailing love of God. He's with us at all times, and He's ready to speak the words that will teach us and tell us we're loved completely and without condition. Love pours in and insecurities are pushed out. The key is to keep listening and letting love in as often as we can. Okay, so as we're sitting here in this quiet space, just being in the stillness of the moment. If you have a journal or a piece of paper to write on, and if you need to go get it, let's go get it. And so what we're going to do is, I have a question. So if you've got your pen and paper, so let's just take a seat and listen closely. And you can write this question down, or you can just think about it in your head, but just make sure you got something to write to answer this question. What do you hear when you open up your heart to God's voice and influence on your life? What do you hear when you open up your heart to God's voice and influence on your life? So just sit there in the quietness and just listen closely. And think about this question and just write it down in your journal. After you have written down what you hear when you open up your heart to God's voice and influence on your life. If you wrote it in your journal, or on a piece of paper, keep it somewhere. Keep it somewhere nearby so you can always go back and see what you have written. It's always good to, sometimes when we don't even think about it, sometimes it's easier to write our feelings down on paper than it is to just say them, or even that may be the case when you're speaking to God. So yeah, just think about the question, write it down on paper, and just keep it somewhere where you can refer back to it and look at the moment you wrote this down a couple months later. And this is a question you can ask yourself on more occasions, and keep this somewhere and just refer back to it. So it'll go it's always good to keep a journal, to see where you're at, because whatever you felt today may be different next week or a couple days from now. So it's always good to have a conversation with God, because he's always listening, he's always here. So, and he can be your best friend. So just remember, Jesus loves you, and have a great day. See you next time.